Hey friends, before we get into the podcast, I just wanted to give you a heads up that later in this episode, when we answer questions, we get into some pretty heavy issues and share personal stories about losing loved ones to tragedy and suicide. We didn't realize how emotional this would get, but wanted to address these questions in an honest, respectful, and loving way. So just wanted you to know that's coming up in a bit in case those conversations might be hard for you to hear. Thanks so much for your support, and we're always aiming to help you. Enjoy the podcast.
Can I just say, I am so incredibly happy that Halloween is over.
It's a lot. It's a lot of effort.
It's so much, especially out here. Oh my gosh. Like you're expected to go out every night for a whole weekend and then some. Mm-hmm. And you don't wanna after a certain point. I was texting a friend and it was so funny because, oh my gosh, let me see exactly what it said. This was probably the night before Halloween, and we were both expected to go out. And I said, I bailed on every party this week except one because I was just too tired. And he said, I'm going to a dumb house party, so. And I said, classic. I think I hate Halloween. And we went on. And I said, for real, I'm going to buy a costume right now that I'm going to wear for one night, and it's going to be like $80. That could have been an Aritzia top. It's true.
Was that the Alice in Wonderland?
Actually, I got that one for very cheap. I'll dive into that later, though.
Okay.
Shark Boy was expensive. Shark Boy was like $70 or something, $60.
Wow.
But it got a lot of views. So
and
I'm sorry,
I thoroughly enjoyed that one.
That's interesting, isn't it? That people put so much time. I went to buy candy yesterday for the Halloween.
Because I was afraid we would run out.
Mom was convinced we needed more candy. And spoiler alert, we have a lot of candy left over. But man, it was nuts. There's no candy in the store. Like all the aisles were bare, and I was like, people were scrounging, fighting over candy. It was like toilet paper in COVID. It's like no candy. And I'm just thinking, how dumb is this? That we're programmed to go buy candy. But I guess it's fun, and people really get into it, and we got into it. We had a lot of fun, and I'll tell you about that on the podcast too.
Speaking of getting into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. You ready?
Yeah.
Set. Go. Let's roll that intro music.
Mags and Dads, wholesome chaos. Mags and Dads, wholesome chaos.
In other news, Mom is a semi-finalist short director.
Mom, that's so exciting. Short
director
film
of a
director.
short.
Yeah.
Short film director. Yes, exactly.
I had to read it several times to make sure that's what it was. Yeah.
In a different film festival.
For Heir Mail again.
For Heir Mail again. Congratulations, honey.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that is amazing. So, yes. So, how this is going to be I don't want to say this is going to be a really good podcast, but it will be. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to talk about.
I have a feeling.
For the first time, yeah, go ahead.
I have a feeling that we had very different Halloweens.
We'll compare and contrast. And also, we're going to get into listener questions. We haven't done listener questions in a few weeks, and there's some pretty heavy questions this week. And so we're going to get into those as well. If you haven't already, you can follow the podcast or subscribe, and you can go to wholesomechaos.com to ask your own questions and suggest topics. So before we get into that, do you want to start about your Halloween?
I want you to start, but I'm just going to give a little teaser.
Okay.
I went to Harryween.
Harryween. Okay.
That's all I'm going to say, but you go first.
Okay. So we stayed here. We stayed home to do the trick-or-treater thing.
In our new neighborhood.
Very excited. Big first impression, because Halloween has been a tradition in our old neighborhood where we perform. Mom is very active and passes out all the candy, and I juggle for the kids, and it's been something we've done for literally 20 years.
Yep.
And we left that neighborhood, and now we're in a new neighborhood. And it's like, nobody here knows that that's what we do. Should we still do it? And we decided, yep, we're going to still do it. And so
We didn't decide that, but
well, it's kind of like we talked about it. It's
I know.
like, you got to
You're
keep
right.
the tradition going while you can. So, but it's a lot different because it's a big neighborhood. There's not a lot of traffic and we're not in a cul-de-sac. So people kind of go by quickly. That's the first thing. And it started a little later than normal. Plus it's a Monday. It was a school night, right? And so that was weird. It's like a little bit out of sync from what's normal. People partied over the weekends and had Halloween parties and such. But Monday night was trick-or-treating, but a school night. So we're out there early and we're on the porch and we're ready to go. And Mom's got the candy, like candy for days. And I've got juggling torches and glow balls and my unicycle and other clubs and my contact juggling. and I'm ready. I'm geared up. But people, when they come by, what would you say, honey? They're on their way. They're making a move.
yeah, I think because a lot of people in the neighborhood don't participate in Halloween, so they
don't pass
probably
out candy.
a lot don't apparently, and I think that if they've been here for years, they kind of know they know where they're going. Just like people always knew to come to our house because your dad would be doing performance tricks, and so I think that everybody kind of. Like we're rushing by. So we stayed on the porch because if we had been inside, we would have a lot more candy, I think, than we do.
Yeah. And we stayed on the porch. So, and I think a lot of people give out whole candy bars. I know our next door neighbors did. So
I
it's
think
kinda
they ran out and they said, I heard so-and-so ran out. Hey, they've got big candy bars now. So I think that was their personal
that was their
stash.
backup. Oh, wow.
That's what I've gleaned.
So people ride around in golf carts on their way to cover as much of the neighborhood as they can. And so we're performing, but I had to shorten my show. I couldn't go from 3 different things. It was juggle fire, finish, let them go. Juggle fire. Then I kept soaking torches and juggling fire all night. And I got into juggling glow balls for a long time. And I got a lot of practice in.
And then a couple of boys, he started teaching them how to juggle.
Aww.
It was so fun, Maggie. And these, because
Hudson and Dane
Yeah.
were a couple, and this was also a good chance to meet some neighbors because we haven't really met a lot of neighbors yet.
Yeah, so that was fun. But this is the first time your dad actually did teaching juggling, and I kind of cut him back on. I was like, don't bring out everything because you're not going to do a 30-minute show. These kids are trying to get to their, hit this whole neighborhood and get their candy. But these boys, and at one point they'd been there probably almost 30 minutes maybe. And I was like, hey, I bet they want to go get candy. And they're like, no, we want to do this. And I'm like, well, that's cool. And he taught them to juggle. It was so cool.
They were very persistent. They stayed, and I
really
taught them
good.
with the glow balls because it was dark outside. So they juggled with my, my professional, same ones I use on stage. And they did great.
Yeah.
And we,
See,
I brought back some actual bean bags to give to them.
Yep.
And then at some point during the night, we also got, I got recognized from TikTok, and this girl Isabella told me she follows you and follows me, and so that word kind of spread, and so I think now there's a reputation in the neighborhood too that's.
well, I'm glad you kept it so low key, and really, I'm glad it took you 3 months to dox your new house. It was really good. No, but as someone who grew up in a non-golf cart neighborhood, I remember me and my friends used to always give so much grief about the kids in golf carts, and even worse than that, the kids whose parents would just drive them. And you're driving, open it up, go to the car. Okay, I'll drive you 10 more feet. Bro, just get out of your car. Man. So all that to say,
But it's a
I
big
understand.
neighborhood. It's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, you're
it's very
right.
hilly.
Yeah, I would hate to have to walk. No, your children walk. I'm sorry, that was a little aggressive. Well, I'm glad you guys had a good Halloween and that you made some strong impressions, and I'm sure that the shows were a highlight for a lot of people's nights.
Thank you. I think they really were. And I had fun. I definitely got my workout in and my practice in, and it made me feel like a kid again, Maggie.
Good.
Like it always does.
So tell us about your Halloween.
Or do
Harryween.
or do you want to kind of weave in questions first? Like
No, I gotta talk.
No.
Okay, Harryween, bring it on.
Do you guys know what Harryween is?
Well, I believe it has to do with the musical artist you saw perform yesterday. Mm-hmm. No?
Do you know his
Harry
name?
Styles.
That is correct.
Yes.
Harry Styles. So Harryween is for the past, I guess, like, I don't know, this tour and then the time he toured before. I don't know if he's done it longer than that. When he's done shows on Halloween, which he calls Harryween, which is really fun. And Jenna and I we did not want to like go to a party or anything. If we had not gone to this, we probably would have stayed home and played pickleball. But thankfully, we were able to go to Harryween, and I had never seen Harry Styles perform live, and I'd heard a lot of hype about specifically his Halloween shows. And I understand it now. Oh my
Really?
Goodness. It was,
Yeah.
for starters, so packed. There's so many people there to see him, which is normal. He's Harry Styles. But everyone, and I mean probably 98% of the people there, were dressed up.
Nice.
Which is just so fun.
Yeah.
Like when everyone's participating. And Jenna and I needed to start the story a little bit earlier. Jenna and I found our costumes day of. We were very last minute. And so we went to a Halloween store with so many options. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. And our first option that we looked at was Buzz Lightyear and Woody. And we were like, that would be cute. We weren't really going for like looking super good. We just kind of wanted something that we'd feel comfortable in all night. However, they only had those costumes in men's XLs. So we decided that was a no-go. And then we ended up seeing Alice in Wonderland and Mad Hatter costumes. And we were like,
cool.
Wait, they're cute, they're comfortable, they're perfect. And we ended up getting them in children's sizes, and they fit perfect. It was really funny. I got a child large, and Jenna got like a child medium, and because of that, they were significantly cheaper. Mine was like $40, and Jenna's was on sale and was like $30, and hers was so cute. She was the Mad Hatter, and I was Alice, and we were working it. We were rocking it. We were also very rushed on time to get ready.
I saw it on TikTok. You guys looked really cute.
Thank you. Yeah,
I haven't seen that. Okay. You got to send it to me.
I will.
Well, I guess maybe I just saw it. Yeah. Go ahead.
We had like 10, 15 minutes to get ready. And so I was speed curling my hair. And then we were going to do content before we left, but then we didn't have time. And so we had to stop and fill up at the gas station. And while we were at the gas station, we were like, all right, now's the time. Let's make some content. And we ended up making content there. And the drive was then actually shorter than we thought. So we got there early, and it worked out perfect. And it was my first time at this stadium. So cool. We got to hang in this other little area for a bit at the stadium, and we saw some friends, which was really cool. I'm pretty sure I talked about Chris Olsen a while ago on this podcast, but I am a Chris Olsen stan. Like, we keep running into each other at so many different places, and I saw him when we were back in, like, the waiting area or whatever, and he literally said, he was like, I keep running into you, like, everywhere, and he looked great. He was dressed up as Danny Phantom, which is incredible, and we ended up running into a few other friends, and it was just such a good time, and then it was time to go see Harry, and everyone was taking bets onto what his costume was going to be. Last year, or the last time he toured, he was Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. And his band was the other members. So you had like the Tin Man and, you know, the Lion and a bunch of others because they were all kind of related to it. And so when the lights went dark and his band walked up, they were all dressed as the cast of Grease. And we were like, Oh my goodness. His drummer, who she's like the fan favorite band member, she's so cool. It made me want to like learn how to drum. Which maybe we can work on that. As I'm literally looking at my parents and there's a drum set behind them, maybe when I'm home for Thanksgiving, I'll learn how to drum and then I'll be super duper cool because drummers are so cool. But she was dressed up as Sandy. And so you kind of looking around, you realize, okay, everyone knows who Harry's gonna be now. And sure enough, he rises from the floor in the center of the stage, and he's got the slicked back black hair and the leather jacket and the glasses, and he looked so, like, oh my gosh, it was so good. He was just having the time of his life. That's the thing I think I really love about concerts, because I'm like, I like Harry Styles' music. I'm not really a super, like, artist person. Like, I don't really have artists that I know every single song of theirs and stuff like that. I know like most
Taylor
of his
Swift.
songs, I'd say for sure, just because he's so popular and I enjoy him. But I don't usually go to concerts specifically for people. I go when I can. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, totally.
But
Yep.
my whole point of this is what I really do love about concerts is just watching these people have the time of their lives on stage. I know I told you that's what I loved about Pitbull. Like, he was having such a great time. And same thing with Harry. And he was so, like, grateful and just, he even said, he was like, I'm so aware that, like, I couldn't do any of this if you guys didn't come and, like, show up. And thank you guys so much for that. And he did his little dance. Nice. He did the hand jive, like, on stage. It was just so precious.
Amazing.
Awesome.
I'm so glad you enjoyed that. Yeah, I love concerts, and I haven't been to one in a while, but it's so great because even if you don't know the artist, you really get to take in like the thing that they created, where they put a lot of thought and time and energy and money and creative team together, and this is like their presentation. But then in that moment, it's fun to see them like free themselves. And they're not worried about hitting their marks and getting this exactly right or whatever. But like you said, they're just playing and having a blast. Now, like with his band, did he have a whole horn section?
They came out for a bit, yeah.
Okay, nice. Awesome. Because I love the horn line in that one song that's really popular, the one that you did the video with. What's the song?
Music for a sushi restaurant.
Yeah, that's it. I love that song.
Yeah, there's a few songs on the album that I have a feeling you would like, specifically because of like the jazzy horn section. But yeah, as you can see, I'm currently wearing the shirt that I got from there.
Nice.
Cool.
It's specific to his LA shows as well, which was really cool. I also got a little tote bag. So following the concert, it got a little less fun.
Oh, no.
Neither Jenna and I had a fully charged phone. And Jenna drove. And once we exited the stadium, Jenna's team was there. We kind of saw the concert with them. It was super fun. And they were like, you guys know how to get back to your car? And we both confidently said, yes. Of course we know how to get back to our car because we're two grown adults who remembered where they parked. And both of us genuinely thought we did know where we parked. And so we both agreed to go right. Out of the stadium, we went right. Then we disagreed because I thought we should go straight and she thought we should go left. So we went left, and then we were walking for a really long time to the point where we realized we had been walking far too long. So we came back and we thought, okay, straight doesn't look right anymore, so let's try right. Still right out of the stadium, but then another right at this light. And then we were walking for a bit. At
so
this
you
point,
were second guessing yourself now. This sounds like a bad Halloween story. This sounds like
on
a
Halloween.
Eerie, I know,
I'm
like
getting
Michael
scared.
Jackson Thriller.
Yeah. And so Jenna's phone's dead, so we can't see where she parked anymore. We talked to some other people and we kind of asked around because we had parked in a lot. We asked, like, do you know where this is? And they gave us some directions that we didn't think was right. And so Jenna had the brilliant idea that I have Life 360 on my phone. I should check Life 360. And so we deciphered the lot that we had parked at, which was actually a school parking lot. And And we mapped to that. At this point, I have like 10% battery. Oh, no. Jenna's phone's dead. And so we mapped to it and realized it was literally left out of the stadium.
Oh, wow.
And so we had walked the complete wrong direction confidently, so confidently. And as we were walking towards it, we were like, well, you know what? The stadium is a circle. So any point of it where we were like, oh no, this is this side, it was literally just the exact same as the other side. And so it was like a 7-minute walk back to our place with a bunch of stops at crossroads. So it was like crosswalks. So it was like 15 minutes. And then
I'm so glad you were okay.
Oh my gosh.
What time did you get home?
Well, we stopped at In-N-Out. So we got home like a little after 1 probably. But I will tell you, for the most part, none of it was really scary because you're also still surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of people dressed in funny costumes coming from the Harry Styles concert. So it's like, it wasn't super scary. It was more of just like, how did we do this?
That's great. I love it. Well, I'm glad everything worked out with that, and happy Halloween. And I'm glad it's over. We can move on to other Halloween or other holidays that are coming up. In fact, one that'll take you back to Atlanta, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
So that'll be great. In our neighborhood here, they started decorating for Christmas already. They're putting lights up. So this is our first time to experience that coming together. It's going to be great. So questions. So we're going to just jump in to a question. And this is from Bastian, who asks a question to me. He says, for Mr. Thurman, can you recall a time when someone gave you parenting advice that you decided not to take, and thinking back, are glad you didn't? Which was an interesting question. It was something I struggled to really think about, Bastian, in terms of like, what is the answer to that? There's so much parenting advice and books and suggestions for how you can raise your kids, how you should raise your kids. And when you're in the flow of it, especially as a first-time parent, there's just so much that's coming at you all at once. You try to inform yourself and just do the best you can. And a lot of it you just kind of don't take in at that time. One of those rules, I guess, that I just kind of said, you know what, I'm not even going to try. We're not even going to try to follow that exactly, was to always like put your kids on a really tight schedule where they always nap at a certain time. They always eat at a certain time. And you kind of like adjust your life to your kids' schedules and their lives. And we were just kind of like, yeah, we don't even have.
That's not going to work for us.
That's just not going to work for us because we're traveling constantly. We're, every day's different. Every day has new obligations, new commitments, new adventures.
Opportunities, yep.
Yeah, spontaneity and fun. And our kids, if they're going to grow up in this family, by goodness, they're going to be flexible. And so they're going to nap when they want, when we say they're going to nap, or when they pass out.
Yeah, literally. You remember when we took Eddie to Ireland when he was 5 months old, and we had one of those baby backpacks.
The best.
And he would literally, we'd like head out and we hiked every day for like hours and hours, different places. And he would just fall asleep. And then he'd wake up and he was someplace completely different. And he'd just look around and smile so big. And he loved the accents too. And
yes.
Yeah, everywhere we went, like, but that was it. Like he'd literally fall asleep like 3 or 4 times throughout the day for a little while. And then he'd wake up and just engage.
He was so cool with it.
Easy going.
And it was the perfect age to travel with him on something like that because he wasn't crawling yet. And so he was just comfortable to just hang out, And we had a backpack that was, we had the front carrier, but then we also had the backpack carrier. But in either case, it like supported his head. And so he could fall asleep and not get,
pretty comfortably,
the bobblehead thing happening. One piece of advice that you reminded me of, honey, that was from my brother-in-law, Jim. You want to share that real quick? This is one we did follow.
Yes.
It was great advice.
Yes. He said, don't tell the kids that you're going to do something ahead of time. Like, don't say, oh, hey, and then tomorrow after baseball or after school, we'll go get ice cream, because things can change, plans can change, and kids just like, oh no, you said that, So even though we would have every intention of doing certain things, certain activities or whatever, something fun, I would be really careful not to voice that too soon.
And then the other side of that is when you did voice something and made a promise for next week or, even the next day, you make it really important that you follow through on that promise. Or we would also explain to our kids, hey, reality has changed and there's a rapidly shifting plan. And this is what we thought we were going to do. And now we have this other opportunity, but bring them along and instead of just saying, oh yeah, that's not going to happen. You can't dismiss that because they've been anticipating it. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, but there were times when we would slip up and we would say that we were going to go do something. Maybe it was to go to the Fern Bank Museum, and then we, didn't want to go that day, or it was raining or whatever, and we had to follow through because we said we were going to do it. And I was like, oh, we never should have said that. Even though we had intention to do it, we didn't need to voice it just yet. One piece of advice, though, that actually it wasn't advice. It was something I wish I hadn't done. I was over at a friend's house, and I think she had just put her son down for a nap, and she was picking up toys that are just scattered far and wide. Well, it had been my habit to make the kids pick up their toys before they had to go to bed or before meals or whatever. It was like, pick up your toys. And she was like, oh, they're too young to do that, at this age. So I thought, oh, okay, maybe I should just pick up for the kids. And so I started picking up after you kids. And I feel like that was a huge disservice and possibly why
Maggie had a mess
Maggie's
room.
What the heck,
was not
guys?
as clean as it might have been. No, but I feel like that was a disservice.
Yeah. Oh, one other rule, Bastian, I did not follow.
Oh, look at your room. It's gorgeous.
That
One
is
other
made.
rule was
Yep. Nice.
don't juggle the children. Someone told me that one time. I was like, yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, you have juggled
I'm
children.
going to juggle
I've
our
seen
kids.
you do it.
Totally
What
juggling our kids.
what's the worst piece of parenting advice? Don't say it's who it's from, but what was the worst thing that someone said and you were like, yeah, definitely not.
I mean, people who just prioritize their kids' needs and wants and desires over their others. Don't be the parent, let your kids be in charge.
Yeah.
That's the general mindset. It's like, no, that's your job. You be the parent. You've got to put some structure around things and give the kids, that's what gives them a sense of security. It's kind of like when you think about, wrapping a baby, you literally bind it in clothing and that's how they feel.
Swaddle, yeah.
You swaddle the baby and it's like, okay, I'm good.
And that gives them comfort. Yeah.
And when they get older, you still need to, in a sense, wrap these rules around them, wrap these parameters around them because it makes them feel loved and secure. And they're naturally going to push against that stuff. But the whole idea, your kids, their needs and desires supersede your own. That's not.
I think people
not good
do
advice.
that not intentionally. That
They want to be friends with their kids.
Yeah, they want to be friends, and they don't want. It's hard to be a good parent. That's the truth. It's like, to be a good parent, you have to outlast your kids in sticking to your guns about certain things, and just saying, nope, this is not what we're going to do, and this isn't acceptable or whatever. I read a great book called "Have a New Kid by Friday." Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. I read that book and I was so excited. Now I have these new tools. I can't wait when one of these kids, throw a little fit or whatever. This is, Mama's got the plan. And you guys were perfect angels for 2 solid weeks. Not even the slightest. I was going, okay, what's going on here? But you guys were really good kids. But you definitely had to, we disciplined our kids.
Okay, next question. And this one's for you, Maggie. Hey, Maggie, I'm a massive fan of you and your dad's show. My question is, how should I handle toxic friends? Keep up the great work on the podcasts. Annalisa. How should Annalisa handle toxic friends?
Drop them.
Yeah.
I know that sounds so straightforward and maybe a little harsh, but it's going to be good for you and hopefully a reality check for them. You personally cannot thrive with toxic friends around you. It's a disservice to yourself. And a lot of the times I fall into this trap because I'm not a big confrontational person. I don't like to directly say things that are hard to hear for people. And so I would say usually I'm not very straightforward with dropping toxic friends. I just distance myself, which is also good. I don't think necessarily that you have to like put them in their place and be like, you are bad. Like, I think you can just say, okay, I recognize that this is not a good friend for me. They're not improving my life. They are actually hurting me emotionally, and I no longer want them to be a close friend of mine. And so creating distance between yourself and them and finding good friends, and also taking the lessons that you learned from them when you are interacting with other people, and realizing like, okay, that's a toxic trait. I definitely don't want that in the people who I surround myself with. And even like a step further than that, making sure that you do not have those traits either. Because a lot of the times it's so easy for us to point out like, that's toxic, without sometimes checking ourselves to see if we've picked up on any of those traits. And if we're even in the slightest bit carrying some toxic traits of like, you know, without going into specifics, just like things that you would not appreciate other people doing, noticing that
Talking
you have adopted
behind their
them.
backs, or like, you know, things like that would just be like, you know,
if you hang out with
false
someone
friends.
and it's like a little bit of a rough hang, and this first thing you do when they leave is call your other friend to tell them how lame your hangout was, or how like, you know what I mean? All the things you didn't like about it. That's probably not a good thing, you know?
Yeah.
So just things like that of recognizing toxicity in others, distancing yourself, and also checking yourself for it and eliminating that out of yourself. I'm not saying you are toxic. I just think that it's an important
really like
factor.
what you said. Yeah, exactly. I really like what you said though about, it's not about you like making the point of I'm leaving this friendship and you should know why I'm leaving this friendship, and having, you know, explaining to them why this didn't work out. It's just you about you prioritizing your own health and your own sanity and the people in your life who are good for you, and making that way more important. So that was really excellent advice, Maggie. Great job.
Thanks.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I think there's a difference between calling somebody out and letting them know that, you know what, I really don't like it when you talk about our other friends or whatever, so that they know. So when you distance yourself from them, they're like, huh, I get it. Because some people may not realize it. And going back to something I mentioned before, like I used to tease my sister. Like I used her as the butt of jokes for a long time. And I thought we all thought it was funny. And she said like, that really, you know, it really upsets me when you do that. I didn't know that, because I mean, I thought she was laughing along and not realizing that it wasn't at what I thought. So by her saying that, then it brought that to my attention. So I think, you know, in situations where if it's possible to just say, hey, I really don't like it when you do this, or I don't like this kind of behavior, or whatever it is, if there's that opportunity, just if it's going to help, you think, do it. Otherwise, like Maggie said, you don't need to call them out.
That is a line that I'm trying to find right now.
Really?
Like full honesty because a lot of the times it's not that simple.
Right.
Taking criticism can be highly difficult. And it's one of those things where knowing something and like, okay, saying this is something that bothers me about this relationship with this person. If I voice it to them, will it actually improve our relationship, or will it hurt it in something that is not recoverable?
Right.
Like you can't take it back out of after you've said it.
Yeah, you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, so that's something, full honesty, like I'm struggling with right now in like some relationships of, does it bother me enough to have the conversation, and would the conversation actually be helpful? And I think it completely depends on the person.
Yeah.
Because some people truly can take criticism and appreciate it. Like like you, Mom, in that scenario with your sister of saying like, oh my goodness, I actually didn't realize that hurt you. I'm so sorry. As opposed to you could have been like, psh, take a joke. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it completely depends.
When you offer something that you mean to be like good information, you should think about this in terms of modifying your behavior going forward. People get defensive and they're going to react to it in the moment in a very different way than they might ultimately come around to seeing that information. So present it with kindness. And I know the things that we're suggesting here seem really, really difficult, and they require some strength. But honestly, when you step into those moments and stand up for yourself and for your health and for your emotional well-being, you're going to find you have more strength than you thought you did. And once you have one or two of those encounters and you come through the other side of it, you'll feel so much better. Like you'll feel like, wow, I did this thing that was well-intentioned. It was on my heart and I followed through. And I think that'll really help. But
to your point, like that's a good point. Like in the moment may not be the best time to say that. If they're, acting a certain way or whatever, to call them out,
it feels
where they
very
might react
accusatory.
defensive. Right, exactly. Like you're attacking them. It's better to wait until another time and bring it up maybe in a different way.
Is accusatory
like maybe
a
different
yes.
Okay,
yes.
amazing.
It's a good word.
Then maybe cut out the bit where I asked. So it just sounds really smart. Just wanted to make sure. No, but it's all good points, and it just goes to show that it is a hard situation. But toxicity is like heavy. If you have those relationships in your life, you walk around with that weight, and it is not fun. And like life is so much better without it.
These are all heavy questions, and they're getting a little heavier, right? Because they deal with loss and with, trying to process that loss in your life. I'm going to read them both and maybe we can talk about them in the interest of time together. But the first is from Audrey, who says, "Hi, Dan and Mags. I've been listening to your podcast since day one. I recently lost my uncle, and his death is the first one that has really hit me. Mind you, I'm 19 and I don't really know how to deal with it. Any help would mean so much to me. Love you, Dan, Mags, Shay, and Eddie." Thank you so much, Audrey. And then the other question is, "I love your podcast. You guys never fail to make my day better. High school has been a challenge. In the past 2 weeks, 2 of my friends passed away. It's been a lot with school and everything going on. Do you guys have any advice on making more time for yourself and for God while balancing loss and high school? Thanks for making my Wednesdays better." And that's from Maggie. And so, Maggie, heavy questions. I know something that's near and dear to your heart. And in the interest of like trying to help these Audrey and Maggie, what would you say?
Grief is like actually one of the wildest human experiences I think that I've ever experienced. I don't know. Do you want to go first, Dad?
I've been pretty lucky in my life not to have close friends pass away when I was younger. And even as I'm getting older, I've lost several friends, more recently. And as you know, that's the journey of life. As the older you get, the more death you experience. And but it's truly tragic when I see people like Eddie and you in high school deal with friends who pass away or who commit suicide, things like this that are very prevalent in today's society and among teens. And I don't know how to comfort someone except to say that these are all journeys of how you come to know love, come to know what is important in life. And every time you encounter a loss, it's a chance to either reaffirm something positive and beautiful about living and about people and about what you took from those people, or it's a chance to get deeper into your own despair. And just please choose the first of those options, because it's a spiral. It could become a spiral if you let your grief take you over. And it's one thing to process grief And I think about people we love and care about, and people I've loved very deeply in life and lost. And the hurt that you feel in your heart is like, I think about it like as a reflection for the love that was there. It's like their love and their presence in your life cast this beautiful like sculpture that now is missing. And so you feel that void because of that, that missing impression of who they are and what they were. And so in that sense, like to feel badly is a good thing because it reminds you of the love on the other side. And then the other thing I would just suggest is it takes time to move through grief. And so the way to help yourself get through it is to look to who else can you help through that process in your friend group, in your peer group, in the family. Don't distance yourself or separate yourself from those who are hurting. Reach out to them and see if you can at least share in that grief together. Just some initial thoughts. And I know Mom's dealt with more grief than any of us. And do you want to share anything, honey?
Well, when I was a teenager, I didn't lose friends in high school. I was a survivor. I lost my brother who was in my first period class. So yeah, it's really hard to go back to school and those people aren't sitting where they should be. And usually I can talk about this without crying. But yeah, I was 17 years old. And I lost two brothers and 3 nieces by a drunk driver. But then I later lost 2 more brothers to suicide. And by then I was in my 20s. And it's a lot different losing somebody to suicide versus an accident. And when I saw Dear Evan Hansen, it was hard, but it was so hopeful. I loved the way that they, you will be found. I just thought that was so cool. And so a lot of what you said, Dan, is that hopefully you will draw from this experience, seeing people, loving them, remembering them, the good things about them, bringing out the goodness in yourself, and just reaching out to others, I think, is all you can do. And Maggie, you guys, you and Eddie went through so many losses. You weren't necessarily close to all of the people that you lost in high school, but it's like it's one of us, right?
Yeah.
We're teenagers and we shouldn't be dying.
Yeah.
It seems so unfair.
Yeah. And
as a parent, you feel helpless, when you see your kids have to deal with those types of, adult challenges. We say they're adult challenges, but, kids have been dealing with loss and hardship and abuse and betrayal and parents and, losing parents and wars and everything else since the dawn of time. It's like grief doesn't have an appropriate age. It's just part of life.
But also, I will say one other thing, that I think if you are one of those kids who think life is too hard and you're thinking about ending it, don't do it. You are a teenager now. You are so young, and these years are so brief. And when you become an adult, you get to control so much more of your life and decisions. And if you make those choices, to do something positive, it's just amazing what opportunities will happen. And so many people, you hear stories about people who were just so down, had a difficult childhood through horrendous stuff. And yet they are the most joyful and loving people because they've tapped into the joy of life and love. And so please, get help, reach out, let people know if you are hurting, because you've got a future to live.
Yeah.
You need to do it. for those who love you, if not for yourself?
Yeah. I was just crying while you two were talking.
It's okay.
Yeah. In my experience, different types, like there's different types of grief depending on the loss. Like I remember losing Nona June, my mom's mom, who lived with us, and such an incredible woman, was just kind of like complete helplessness because it was so out of the blue. And just like, I'm sorry I'm so cry, but I will never forget the moment of being told that and just like the absolute helplessness because none of it made sense. Like, this woman who I hugged this morning is no longer here. And there's nothing I can do about it. There's no, like, I remember I asked you guys, I was like, are we going to the hospital right now to, like, see her? Like, is she, like, okay? And just, like, there was nothing. Yeah. There was nothing I could do.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't really know how exactly we went about processing that as a family other than just, like, being with each other. And just holding each other close and remembering all the incredible things and just like carrying her with us every day. In regards to like, unfortunately, I also know what it's like to lose friends from suicide. That is a different type of pain because it feels avoidable. It feels like something that we all, and that you can get into a spiral with that. That's such an unhealthy spiral of like, what could I have done better? And then that comes back to blaming yourself in a way, which just isn't true. And it's not helpful. It's not your fault. But that's a different kind of pain. And again, I think that healing just comes from keeping their memory alive and being with people you love. And
part of what helped me, and I think maybe helped you with Nona June, it was so abrupt and sudden. And like you said, you hugged her that morning. I talked to her that morning. We laughed together. She told us this really funny story about we were remembering being on the Grand Canyon together on the rafting trip. And she told this story about this guy going by in a boat and flirting with her.
Yeah.
And it was, anyway, so literally it's like, oh, how could that have just happened? But the thing that helped me through it was the fact that we had that moment. You had that hug. It's like she knew how much we loved her. There was nothing left unsaid. And so that's the lesson, I think, is like, if people mean something to you in your life, don't put up like a false front or don't create baggage and distance between each other. Like, share what you feel for each other, because you just don't know how, when you're going to lose that opportunity to do it. And the friends that I've lost younger, invariably, like people I know, like Vince and, people who died young, I always have the same thought, which is, I didn't get to know him well enough. Like I was too busy. I didn't develop a close enough connection with that person, and that's on me. And so all you can do is apply that going forward and be more present with the people who are in your life, and just cherish the moments that you have with them.
Yeah. I'll say, even from like an early age, before I had like experienced losing people to suicide in my personal life, I like always knew from a young age, I was like, that's never an option for me, solely because of what you've been through, Mom. I was like, no matter how hard my life is or what I'm going through, like, I had seen how it affected you. And I was like, I can never put my family through that.
And I thought the same thing for my family. I was like, assuring my family that would never be an option. Yeah. It was like, if I get hit by a bus, that's okay, but I will not. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but like it.
That was kind of our joke. It was like, I would never commit suicide. But if I got hit by a bus, no. But no way.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, these are heavy questions, and I love you ladies so much. I'm just so amazed by your great wisdom, and honey, you're the most amazing person in my life, and
Yeah.
the fact that you get to be my wife and I get to learn from you all the time is just a remarkable gift. And Maggie, thank you for going there. You know, I know that wasn't easy for you, and I know that's not exactly what this podcast means to you, you know, in terms of getting into that vulnerable place. But I think that in doing so, you really helped a lot of people today. Yeah. And you helped me as well.
Well, I hope people will actually go to Wholesome Chaos and ask us some fun questions too.
Yeah. What's your favorite color? No, we could bounce back and be resilient and have fun. And we continue to do that all the time. And, and humor is like that. Humor gets you through it too, right? It's
Absolutely.
It's like finding the funny, and even in the moments that you're grieving and suffering is really important.
And I would like to go on record to say that if I die suddenly, or whenever I do die, even if I'm 100 years old, my funeral will end with Uptown Funk, and everybody is to dance their way out of whatever place we are doing this. I'm totally serious. I am dead serious on that. Oh, no pun intended.
Oh my gosh.
Well, on that note, I think we wrap this thing up.
Man.
Ladies and gentlemen, subscribe to the podcast. Go out, ask your questions. WholesomeChaos.com. We love you so much. Have a great week, Maggie.
You guys too.
Take care of yourself. Keep smiling. Give our best to Jenna.
I will.
And I love you, honey.
Love you, honey.
And we love you, everyone. Thanks for being a part of our family and part of our life. And have a great week. We'll see you soon.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Mags and Dads, wholesome chaos. Mags and Dads, wholesome chaos.
So you know how the dogs always go crazy at Halloween? Like, they're just freaking out the whole time with
It's
the
like fireworks. Like the
trick-or-treaters or whatever.
they're crazy.
And then, and so I remembered yesterday that the doctor the vet had given me some anti-anxiety pills for Simon.
So we drugged the dogs, Maggie.
No.
Yes.
So I'd never given them to him before.
And
I'm
they
like,
were so mellow and cool.
They never barked.
They never
They were
barked
so
at all.
good.
She gave Simon one of them, and she gave Spencer half of one, and they were just kind of like hanging out. They were really good with the whole thing.
That's
it was
so
awesome.
funny.
Yeah. I'm not sure what those were exactly, but they tasted like peppermint.
No.
Just kidding. I did not take the dog medicine.